So by now, everyone knows that the Gojo in Jujutsu Kaisen fan parade is extremely broken. And yes, he's broken despite having a 7-turn limit. I don't care what anybody says. This guy is insane. But one other thing that you have probably been hearing a good bit is to not summon beyond Gojo. There are some characters you can get right now, but there are better characters, or really good characters, if you will, on the horizon like Yuta. And today we're going to talk about Yuta and some other characters that you guys should be looking forward to summoning in the immediate future. And joining me for this is our resident expert on the game from the Japanese version, my friend Zenrot. How you doing, man?
Doing good, doing good. Back again to keep spreading the word of Yuta. That's all anyone's ever going to hear about this game for the next 3 months is Yuta.
Yeah. Everyone's talking about Yuta, and he's going to be amazing. You guys are going to find out why. But speaking of amazing, make sure that you subscribe to Zenrot's channel. Link is down below in the description. He is going to give you guys a ton of extremely detailed, well thought out videos. So, and I'm definitely putting the onus on him to do so by saying that. But, but check him out. Link is down below in the description. Also, subscribe to the channel here. About 80% of viewers aren't subscribed, so make sure you join that awesome 20% that is. And let's go ahead and dive in with Yuta. So, Zen, what makes him so amazing? I know we covered it recently in another video, but let's just, go over it again, I guess.
Yuta, the comparison I like to make for Yuta is he is the best character in the game that's not broken, like Gojo, like inherently busted by. And I don't mean that Yuta's not overpowered, because you could argue that he is. I mean that the way Gojo works fundamentally just kind of breaks the design of the game. Like he's not subject to the rules of the game. Yuta is, but he's kind of got everything. So can he Black Flash? He sure can. He absolutely can. He's got a decent regular. I mean, everyone kind of has the same regular attack. His skill number 2 hits AoE, so there's not a whole lot of AoE skills in the game right now. He has one. It reduces the enemy's resistance to critical hits, so it increases the chances that your team will land crits. And it has a chance to instantly kill enemies. So the weaker the enemy is, it has a chance to just instantly kill them, which ends up being a pretty big boon, because you were talking earlier, people complaining about that Gojo turn limit. That turn limit looks a lot better when Yuta insta-wipes waves of little enemies. Yeah, his skill 3 is really high damage. It's a 4-hit combo that both does physical and Jujutsu damage. So it does a ton of damage. And then his ultimate is the highest damage ultimate in the game for a while. At level 10, it's almost 2,000%. Now, that's only on raw damage. Technically, Gojo does more damage because Gojo has that really huge buff that he can double stack on himself. Yuta doesn't have that. So technically Gojo does more damage, but Yuta has the highest damage number. And then his passive skills is that he has a team-wide heal. So, if any of your characters start running low, it's also not an ability that he has to use. He will do it automatically at the end of the turn. So if someone gets into critical HP, when the turn ends, Yuta will heal them right back up. And he'll heal everybody. And in a cool little nod to Jujutsu Kaisen lore, if you have a cursed spirit in your team that's not a person, the healing does damage to them instead, because cursed spirits take damage from the reverse curse technique. But yeah, he'll heal everybody. And then he has a chance to counter any attack that would make physical contact with him. So anytime someone goes to do like melee damage, there's a chance that Rika will come out and just counter the attack instead.
Awesome. So how does the game start looking when Yuta comes in and he takes over that spot that Kugisaki is in right now? How is team construction and the damage output? How does that start looking?
So it's pretty similar, except the damage output spikes considerably. So you still have, your, I hate to say it, but Yaga, like he's the man. Hopefully you have him, And then you have like your Nanami or your Momo, your secondary buffer.
Yeah.
Whoever it is right now, like that. There's the Nanami right there.
And Nanami right there.
And then I think the SR Momo is probably lower, but still, there she is right there. Those are the big 3 of buffers in the game right now. Hopefully, by the time Yuta comes out, in your hunt for him, you will get Yaga and Nanami. Those are your buffers, and then you have Yuta Gojo, and your idea is to get all of your buffs up, and then make sure that you have Gojo's self buff double stacked, so you have all the buffs from your buffers and Gojo's self buff double stacked onto him. And then you want to cooperative ult at the same time with Yuta and Gojo to basically just nuke enemies. We're talking like millions of damage points at this point, with all those extra multipliers and stuff added on top.
That's kind of crazy.
And
So
since
everybody complaining about the 7-turn limit on Gojo, which, by the way, he absolutely needed to have because he would be too broken if he didn't have it. Everyone complaining, just wait a few weeks because Yuta should be coming up within the next few weeks here.
yeah, Yuta's got no turn limit, so you guys can rest easy. You don't have to worry about it. You know, I see people complain about the turn limit. This is a conversation for a different video, but it's definitely because they're using Gojo wrong. I will leave it there, but a topic for another discussion when we're not talking about this.
Spicy. So, speaking of Gojo, there is another Gojo that comes up literally 3 weeks after Yuta, assuming that this game follows the same trajectory. Do you want to talk about this Hollow Purple Gojo?
Yes, so Hollow Purple Gojo. To everybody who hates the 7-turn limit, you're going to extra hate this guy because he leaves the minute he ults. As soon as he uses Hollow Purple, he bounces. And even with that information, he is still better than the blue Gojo. He does a ton of damage. He has a lot of utility built into his kit. So you see that first attack there. When he attacks, he also reduces the damage that the enemy can do. His skill 2 will increase the enemy's damage received by a set number. So basically, you target the enemy, you give him that debuff. It increases his own damage and also increases the damage they take. So it's like a double stack. He gets a self buff, they get a debuff that increases the amount of damage that they receive. So it's like he buffs himself, but then he also kind of spreads the love because he'll also increase the damage your other characters are doing. And then his ultimate is just as strong as Yuta's. It's the same multiplier as the Rika Beam with the Hollow Purple. It does make him leave immediately, but the damage output is disgusting. And enemies shouldn't be surviving this, essentially, is the way that it works. If you get off Hollow Purple, especially in combination with the the Rika Love Beam thing, if people are surviving, you're too underleveled right now. Like, they shouldn't be surviving that.
So if you, just hypothetically, if you use that ultimate on the final boss, will it count as you losing a character?
It will not.
It just,
as long as it kills and the game, like the round ends right there, it does not count as you losing the character.
Gotcha. That's good. I saw also on the second skill, this probably doesn't matter, but he increases the damage that they are doing to you as well, right?
He does for 1 turn.
Yeah.
It obviously doesn't matter for him because he has the limitless, so he can't take damage. And there's another character I'm going to shoehorn you into talking about in a little bit that I think people should be on the lookout for that also essentially ignores this entirely. But it does increase a little bit of the damage that the enemy does back to you just to kind of counterbalance it out.
Gotcha. Okay, so Gojo is going to do so much damage despite the fact that he's got the turn restriction and he leaves immediately. He's going to be replacing the current Gojo, and he's about 6 weeks out, give or take, right? So that's a pretty interesting way to kind of conceptualize the next month and a half of the game, assuming that things stay as they were on JP. Whenever there's a global version, you don't truly know if they move things up, if they pair things differently, whatever their plan is. But
if Yuta drops on the same schedule, I think it's safe to say everything will be the same because Yuta's release was such a weird circumstance in Japan being like movie related. If Yuta is on the same schedule, I think it's safe to assume they won't change anything else.
Well, that would be really good if they did that. But who did you want to talk about next? I know there was some other character that you were mentioning.
Next, I wanted to talk about, under the support tab there, the domain expansion Megumi.
This art is so good.
It is. It's really cool. His ultimate is also really cool. He does the whole domain expansion. He does the combo with the 2 nues that he did from the anime and stuff.
That's so cool.
So this character, the only drawback that he has is that his ultimate is very slow to cast. It requires a lot of gauge. So you're going to want to use some recollection bits with him that increase ultimate gain to make up for it. But his ultimate is extremely busted. So he actually does lay out his domain expansion. And when that domain is out, he becomes immune to damage. So he essentially gets the same Gojo like limitless activation. He can't take damage anymore.
Oh.
Yep. It increases the damage that all enemies take. It decreases the damage that they can do. He becomes immune to attacks. His attacks cost less curse energy while the domain is active. The only real downside is that you can't charge his ult gauge again, but you're never going to ult twice. It doesn't matter, right? So that's skill number 1. If you look at it at level 10, his skills change when his domain is active. So they do one thing when it's not active, and they do a different thing when it is active. When his domain is active, it increases the damage that the enemy takes by effectively 100% for 3 turns.
Wow.
So you lay out his domain.
99%.
It's insane. You lay out his domain, and he would kind of take the place of like the weaker buffer. So it would be like Yaga, Megumi, Yuta, Gojo would be like the theoretical team in this instance.
Mhm.
And so you drop the domain, you do 2 hits with this while the domain is out. So because it's 3 turns, so it can double stack.
Returns. Wow.
So you've got 2 stacks of that on. Plus, while that's happening, you've got Gojo buffing himself, debuffing the enemy, and all that kind of stuff. So that's 200% additional damage onto the target that they're going to take. That's an insane damage increase. That's way more than Nanami can provide, you know?
Yeah, that's crazy.
He's a monster, and he synergizes with that Gojo thing that we were talking about where, oh, he's making the enemy do more damage. That's now 2 targets that the enemy can swing into that are immune to damage.
Wow, that's ridiculous. So he is going to be amazing. When does he? Oh, so he comes out around. What is this? This is like right after Gojo, right?
It's before Gojo, after Yuta. It's like in between the two.
Oh, that's
Basically,
right. This is like 2 weeks after.
There's Yuta, a couple weeks, Megumi, a couple weeks, Hollow Purple. Like in that order.
Man. So basically, do not go crazy on Yuta only. You need to have some stuff in the tank. I feel like out of those 3, you could probably ignore the Gojo the most, right?
So that's one thing, is that the Gojo is really good, but obviously you can't use blue Gojo if you use him. So if you invest a lot in blue Gojo, the gap is not that big, right? Where like, yes, Hollow Purple does more damage. Like, he is better. But is the gap that much to be worth the investment, especially in a game with a pity as bad as this one's is? Like, can't really sugarcoat it. It sucks. Is it worth that investment when you've got Yuta and Megumi that might be more worth having for that long term when you already have a Gojo? I think that's a pretty worthwhile thing to think about if it's worth it.
Yeah.
I like Hollow Purple. I think it's extremely busted. But again, the current Gojo is already so good that you're really not hurting yourself if you choose not to chase, basically.
Okay, well that makes sense. All right, so who else did you think you had in mind here? By the way, what's up with this? What's happening here?
So the R Kaito, he is a cursed energy regen bot, essentially.
Oh,
so
okay.
Any characters where you have to spend a lot of cursed energy, he just funnels that. And then I don't believe there's a whole lot of characters that do that. And then he has that big buff on his ultimate where your allies get a pretty massive boost. And since he's an R character, he's absurdly easy to both get and max out, frankly, with duplicates. Okay. He has a lot of really good utility. He does absolutely no damage. He will never hurt anyone. Yeah. 0 damage. But his buffs, especially for an R character that's extremely easy to get, are pretty effective.
Okay, because I'm looking at that, I'm like, wait a minute. But I'm seeing he's doing no damage. It's all support. So that's kind of interesting. Character you could probably use. So not really related to the video, but I had a question on that. All right, so who are we talking about next? And why is it the other panda?
Panda Dose, the goat. So the other character that I wanted to mention that's pretty soon after Megumi is the Momo, the SSR Momo. Or after Gojo. Sorry, she comes out after Hollow Purple, but it's like, I think might literally be the next banner after Hollow Purple, because I think Hollow Purple is like the end of January, Momo is like the end of February.
Yeah, end of February. Yeah. That stuff's out of order for me.
So she's super strong, increases just universal damage output, and also increases both universal crit rate and decreases enemy crit resistance at the same time. And then her skill 1, the just regular attack, increases the enemy's damage received. So you don't even have to spend cursed energy to apply debuffs to your opponent that cause them to take more damage. So she can constantly just throw out debuffs, and then when she's got cursed energy, she can buff the team's damage. And then she has a stun on her ultimate, like the current one does, and also can make the enemy's ultimate gauge take a little bit longer to cast. So if they're about to nuke you.
This is the first character I've actually seen. We talked about it the other day that actually has crit damage in there, so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, most of the time it's just crit rate. and like crit
Yeah.
resistance, and she actually increases the damage of a critical hit on top of all of that. So you're getting all of it at one time.
This is a crazy skill. It
Yeah.
looks crazy.
Yeah, it sure is.
It's like, do you want a crit? For sure. Just here you go. So she's gonna be another one of those buff bot characters. So with her, is it just that you're keeping Yaga SR no matter what until he's maybe replaced by the SSR, or would you drop Yaga at this point?
It really depends on what your team formation is, because I don't think that there's necessarily a hard requirement for her either. Kind of in the same way that Gojo is not a huge buff over other Gojo. I think if you were to skip out on this Momo and keep Yaga, that would be okay. I would use her over Yaga if I was using that Megumi, so I only had the one support slot. It would be her. But I think you can live without her. But if we're talking characters that are absolutely cracked at what they do, she's got to be on there.
Yeah, she seems like she'd be a good investment. And really that's cool because both of her versions are pretty good. What I'm seeing is that a lot of characters in the game seem to have good longevity. So that's pretty nice and reassuring.
They do. Yeah. I mean, when you get a character that's good, I mean, you kind of got to know where to invest, right?
Yeah.
If you get a character that's good, that character is going to stay good. If you invest in a character that's not good, you'll probably see them kind of slip. But
yeah, that makes sense.
It is what it is. Like, you could argue probably that blue Megumi right now isn't that bad, or like green Yuji isn't that bad right now because it's launch. But obviously they plummet down the list. But when you put your stocks in the good characters, like even Nobara right there, you can see is still considered pretty strong.
Or she at?
So
oh, there she is. Yeah, S tier.
Yeah.
With 2 other Novaras in the same tier. That's funny.
Yep. There's a lot of Novaras, Yujis that come out. I think there's a few Megumis. There's like 3 Megumis, I think.
That's funny. All right, so we have time for one more if you had one, but otherwise, then I think we've done pretty good here.
I'm gonna cheat, and we don't have to fully go into all 3 of them, but I just want to make people aware of them. I'm gonna cheat and say hidden inventory arc as a whole, because they kind of come out right with each other. You've got Teenage Gojo, Teenage Geto, and Toji. They are pretty much like they all kind of come out at one time because they again were with the anime, I believe. It was like a celebration for all of them. Yeah. So Toji is the big one. He's like a big strong boy. But Teen Gojo is also extremely strong, and Teen Geto is also extremely strong. They all kind of come out at the same time. It's just think of any gacha game you know of where they have a big celebration and there's like 4 units that are super cracked. This is one too to kind of keep your eye on. So the Teen Gojo comes out, is super strong. Teen Geto comes out like a week later, is super strong, and then Toji comes out a week later, is super strong. All of them extremely good. So they can kind of like, if you have these other units that you don't necessarily want to invest in, like maybe you don't want to pull Hollow Purple. Maybe you're like, you know what, I'm fine with my Gojo right now. I'll just do that. Or maybe you don't want to pull Domain Megumi. Maybe you're like, you know what, I don't like Megumi that much. I don't want to do it. I'd rather have Hollow Purple. You can save for that Geto instead. If you don't want Hollow Purple Gojo, maybe you save for Teenage Gojo, or you save for Toji instead, right? So they can kind of let you, because they're a little bit further down the road. Like I think they were 7-ish months, 6 to 7 months after the game came out.
Yeah, I was checking the dates, and it looks almost like they would have been tied into some sort of like half-year anniversary or something like that.
It's probably around there because the game was end of November. I think Toji's the beginning of June. So yeah, it's like right around there. And so if you're looking at these characters now, because again, the pity is rough. It's hard to deal with. And if you're looking at it and you're like, well, I don't want to waste investment in whether it's Hollow Purple or Megumi or, Momo, whoever else that you don't want to pull for, then you can use this sort of release where all 3 of these units that are really good are coming out, and you can kind of fill that hole for whatever you skipped on, right? So maybe you skip on Megumi, doesn't matter. In a few months, you're going to get Geto, and you can just do that with Geto. Maybe you skipped on Hollow Purple, doesn't matter. In a few months, you'll have Teenage Gojo or you'll have Toji, and you can just slot them in instead.
Gotcha. And those are the only Gojos in the game currently, right? There's probably going to be one for anniversary though, but
probably either that or there. Fun fact: still no playable Sukuna, so he may be the anniversary character.
Oh, okay, yeah, I could see that happening.
Yeah,
I didn't even notice.
Also, again, you notice that there's only 3 Gojos, and all of them are the SS tier.
Yeah,
it's fitting. But and so you can kind of plan your investment out in that way, knowing that in a few months you kind of have, well, not a few months, about half a year, but in that time frame you have this sort of big bubble of these really top tiers that anything you don't invest in now you can always pull later. Also, Hollow Purple and Megumi and Momo, and those are not limited units, so they will be in just the general SSR pool after that. Yuta is a limited unit. So once his banner is gone, he's gone. And I don't know if he reruns. I genuinely have no idea. He did not rerun in the whole time that I was there. Once he was gone, that was just it.
Oh, interesting.
And if
we should have said that in the
serves,
beginning.
yeah, probably should have. And if, but yeah, once Yuta's gone, he's gone. So get your investment in then. And if I recall correctly, which I am pretty sure that I do, the Teen Gojo, Geto, and Toji are also limited, at least for a while. Because I don't think they go into the general pool. Most characters, once they release, just go into the general pool. And so with that in mind, you can also think like, all right, maybe I won't bother chasing super hard for like Hollow Purple, and I'll just wait for him to fall into my lap from tickets in a few months. You know, like eventually you'll get lucky and just kind of grab one of them. But Yuta, limited unit, will not come back. Technically true of the Jujutsu Kaisen 0 Geto, but I don't think he's good enough to care if he doesn't come back, frankly. He's strong, but like not that strong. Not compared to Yuta. Yuta will not come back, and I believe the hidden inventory characters, at least at first, also do not come back into the general pool.
Interesting. Well, guys, you heard it here. These guys, if you want them, you got to kind of key in on them when they come out. But otherwise, the main takeaway I want you guys to have is that while there are some other good characters on the horizon, very good characters that you guys are going to want, like Hollow Purple, you have two things working in your favor. They're going to be in the general pool, generally speaking. And you also have a lot of optionality. Like, do you want to go for a certain character, whether that was Momo, whether that was Hollow Purple? Do you need that character? Are you having that role already filled by another character of equivalent, or at least, you know, a good enough character that you can kind of plug in there to say, I don't need to pull for these, and you can kind of pinpoint which ones you want to save for? Because like I mentioned a moment ago, the game does have a lot of longevity with the characters. So that's pretty good. And yeah, definitely. It makes it pretty easy, I think, to kind of plan out a look for your future here with this game.
Yeah, the game characters last for a very long time when they're good, like you said, and the fact that you can kind of get everything in the general pool, it's pretty generous with tickets. I don't know if it's the most generous ever with the actual pool currency, like the cubes or whatever, but with like summon tickets, events tend to give them out. Like you get like a free multi in events when they drop, like every time. Over time, you will just kind of accumulate stuff, you know? So if there's anything that you want to take away from it, don't let Yuta go by. Basically, you're going to hear that every day for the next 3 weeks until he comes out. Don't miss Yuta. That's my nugget of wisdom.
Yeah, that's all people are saying is Yuta. But that's why I also wanted to do this video, because I know it's Yuta, but I know there's more too. Like, so that's the main thing. It was pretty interesting for me to find out looking into doing this video, and I'm sure for the people that watch this video as well, to find out that we have good characters that are just a few weeks behind Yuta. Like, he's not the only character that's coming out relatively soon here. And so that's the main focus for today's video. And guys, you guys just spent 20 minutes watching Zen go crazy with all the info. So again, make sure you do subscribe to him. Link is down below in the description. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna keep on reaching out to you anytime there's something like this that I want to cover that you know, I can pick your brain on for sure.
Anytime, man. I love talking about this game, so happy to do it.
Sure thing, guys. Again, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you all next time. Peace.
See ya.